but her last name's Coleman, and the guy that sold me this greenhouse kit said he builds greenhouses for Elliot Coleman, and for me to watch Mrs. Coleman building it. Now she's about in her mid-60s, and you'll see when I show you the video, and she puts this thing together just like a champ. So almost anybody can put it together. If you're disabled or have back problems, you may need help. But this particular greenhouse is very simple to buy. You can buy these rails here. All these metal rails you buy from Lowe's or Home Depot. I tend to like Home Depot because I think it's 17 gauge. It's one number larger than it is at Lowe's. Now, I could be wrong. I've researched it, but I researched it at 12 o'clock last night. So you guys do your homework. Find the best gauge that you can get. There's two gauges. You can get 16 and 17. And as the best I know about that, it's top rail chain link fence pipe is what it is. It's 10 foot 6 inches long, and Lowe's and Home Depot sells it. And one sells 16 gauge, the other one's 17. Now I believe the lower number is a better grade of steel and thicker. Do you guys, anybody know that? Okay, well that's all good. I looked online, and like I say, at 12 o'clock at night there's only so much you can research. But it probably doesn't matter on that, but you can buy this stuff. The main thing for me, I wanted to buy off-the-shelf parts. That was the main thing I wanted to do, and I wanted to keep the price down. I wanted to keep it where I spend a little bit here and spend a little bit there. Have you ever heard about the guy who builds a house, and every time he gets a paycheck, he goes and adds another stick of wood to his house? Have you ever heard about that guy? You know, I used to be that guy a long time ago, but that's another story. So it's the same thing with a greenhouse. You can build it as you get a little money in your pocket. You can build it in each phase, and I'll show you the phases that you need to go through. This is where to find parts kits. LostCreek.net right here, and BuildMyOwnGreenhouse.com. BuildMyOwnGreenhouse.com is where I bought these parts here that I'm going to show you in a minute. And these are the parts for that greenhouse that you saw in the picture. The only thing I have to do, I got all the parts. The only thing I have to do is go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy my top rail chain link fencing. So here's another company, GrowerSolution.com. These guys, I bought my greenhouse plastic. They had the best price on that. On that particular greenhouse, as I was told by the guy who built the kit, you want a 24 by 25 foot roll. So that's what I bought. Now I bought two of those rolls. I bought one of them, but I'm going to buy another one, and I'll show you why.
Why make what size rolls?
They're 6 mil. All greenhouse plastic is always 6 mil, and it's always UV treated. It's about $100 for a 24 by 25. So, you know, as I go along and work, I'm going to buy another roll. The reason why is because I'm going to they sell these little blowers that you can install on your greenhouse, and it blows a cushion of air in that greenhouse, and it gives you about that much insulation from the outside, and that thing will flat store some heat for you. So you can take a little small heating device, and it's like Noah's Ark. You can get all the way through the winter and keep all your high-end plants just fine.
What size is your greenhouse?
The greenhouse I'm going to build is 10 by 12. Okay, now there's another company, Greenhouse Megastore. Here's FarmTech. Now FarmTech, here's what I buy from FarmTech. This is what you attach to the sides and around the top. I'll show you a little later. But what you do is you take your greenhouse plastic and you put it in this crease here, and then you just merely put this wiggle wire in here, just like that, and it wiggles. It's pretty neat the way it works. You see how it goes in there like that? And this will hold plastic in the strongest wind. Now, you can have two plastics and one shade cloth in this. This is called U-channel, and this is called wiggle wire. And I'll always have 2 plastics on my greenhouse because I like putting that cushion of air in between both plastics. And that comes out really easy, so it comes on and off, it's no problem. If you ever need to change something out, it's fine. You buy that at Farm Tech. They've got the lowest price. Now eBay's got a good kit as well. This is, we've already discussed where to find the pipe. Now here's the kit of buildmyowngreenhouse.com. And that's this particular greenhouse right here. Now I'll show you one of the parts. So this is just, they manufacture these things, and it's really strong. And this thing will hold up in any kind of wind, and you just put your pipe into this after you bend it, and this is what they give you. They give you that as the kit, and that little kit right there will build that whole greenhouse there. Now I'm not in a huge rush to build this thing. I figure I need to get it in before the cold weather, which is going to be probably by about October 1st. I'm going to have this thing in. And anyway, I think that's a really good design. There's a larger picture of it. And this thing can be moved. Do you see the base here? You can move this. I'll use this near the house to overwinter my plants in the wintertime, but in the summertime I'll put it under a shade tree and I'm going to grow lettuce in it. Lettuce in raft boxes. I'm going to do the hydroponic thing. I'll show you a picture of that as well a little later. Now here's another technique. These are modular greenhouses, and 2 people can carry these things. And I just think that's a fantastic design. This is Elliot Coleman's farm. And what he wanted the cheapest greenhouse he possibly could throw up. And so this guy, he sold him these kits, and this is what they built. Now you could do the Gothic the same way. And 2 people can move that. 2 strong people, by the way. This is his crew. So, but one of them looks like a woman to me, if I'm not mistaken. But
You can put them together then and make it larger.
yes. Now these are easy to, those things are super easy to build, and there's no ends on them. They put the plastic on after they get them set up where they want. I like the idea of a movable greenhouse. Now the door, you're probably thinking, well, I'm going to want a door on the thing. You know, you can spend a ton of money on doors. Don't do it. Just do this. There's what you use to make your door out of. It's called a scissor door. And let's see, where is it at? So you put 2 pipes in here, and this thing moves. And you can open it and close it, and what happens is you use a clamp. You can make a clamp out of PVC to clamp these things really easy. And they'll clamp shut for you. You can use just about anything to clamp these things shut. You can use, have you seen those things at Lowe's, those things you squeeze? You can use those down on the bottom because they're just 2 pipes. And they bring the plastic together. You're going to see on the video, this lady shows you how to build this thing on her video. So I thought it was a fantastic plan, and you know, maybe later I'll go out and spend the money and put a better door on it and kind of spiff it up a little bit, but for now, you know, I'm just trying to get the thing up and running and get my plants in there and get my objective met, which is to overwinter all my high-end dwarf trees. Wiggle wire and U-channel. We've already covered that. So you can mount 2 plastics and 1 shade cloth in that channel. So that's a lot of space in there. And here's a picture of it, what it looks like with the plastic. You see how it looks there? Now there's plenty of room in that channel to add other things. Now eBay sells parts as well. the thing I like about eBay is that they give you the instructions like this about how to put all their parts together. And it's a pretty simple setup. They do Gothic, but I wouldn't necessarily buy a Gothic from them. But the thing I like about eBay is, I'll show you. I missed it. You can build a much larger greenhouse, and it's pretty cheap to do with them. They got rock bottom prices. I don't think you'll beat eBay prices. I want to build next year a 20 by about 45 or 60 greenhouse. And I want to do it on the cheap and put my whole garden under there, except for beans. Beans can take a beating and they keep on ticking. But I want to put just about my whole garden in there. And anyway, here's a greenhouse at Living Web Farms. And I want you to notice here how they put down this cloth on their walkways, and they have raised beds. Now, you notice how the tomato gardeners in Mills River do tomatoes? This is the way they do their peppers here. But their tomatoes, they keep on string, as you can see here. And this isn't a good picture for tomatoes. Let me see if I can find one. I like the design on this greenhouse, but they just bought that used. And I asked them if it's possible to build something like that. And they said, no, we got it used. And we got a deal on it. And they had mentioned to me 3 good places, which I'll share with you later in the study, that it's good to find used greenhouses. You know, that's another really good option. Dealing with greenhouse heat. There's a product called Surround. And it comes in a big, I think it's a 20-pound bag. It's a fairly big bag. And what this stuff does is, it's kaolin clay. And when you spray it on the leaves, it coats the leaves, and bugs hate it. They can't stand it. It's very similar to diatomaceous earth. It lacerates bugs. And so it's a bug repellent to a degree. And also, it helps plants to be able to withstand high heat. Like if it's 100 degrees in your greenhouse and you spray this kaolin clay all over your plants, those plants actually photosynthesize better with that stuff. And less light comes through, but the heat is not able to get through. It's like putting an armor barrier on your plants. That's one method. Or you can use a 30% shade cloth. I'm saving questions for last. There's no questions right now because we need to get through this material, but we have question and answer time in the last part of this class. So write down the question, and we don't want to take up time doing that now. A 30% shade cloth is the maximum you would want to use with tomatoes. And a 40% shade cloth for lettuce and all leafy green vegetables. Another good method, if you don't want to buy a shade cloth and you want to grow leafy green vegetables, is to just stick them under a tree canopy that gets morning sun and afternoon shade, so the lettuces are protected. Lettuce or any kind of other leafy green does not like high heat. But I found a way to circumvent this. I come out several times a day if I'm home, and I'll sprinkle water. I'll always be moving my hand, and I'll just sprinkle water all over those lettuces. And I'll get them all wet. And then I'll come back a few hours, several hours later, and I'll do the same thing. And what happens is those lettuces absorb that water and they rehydrate themselves, and they can go through the hottest summer like that. It's no problem. A good technique for the greens, sorry, I should have been watching my own study. Disease control. Blight is a terrible problem here. It's one of the worst problems here in western North Carolina. There's only a few problems that you're going to get, and if you can master the problem with blight, you can grow almost anything out here. This is ground zero for blight. What that means is that many scientists and companies come to this area to trial their blight products. Did you guys know that? That's a true fact. Due to inclement weather, greenhouse growing is emerging as a viable alternative to minimize crop losses and may one day be the only way to grow. You know, as weather gets more and more crazy, you really need to think about that statement. I think that's hitting the nail right on the head. Blight Central USA. This is my neighbor. Now, my neighbor's a professional. He's borrowing my neighbor's field, the guy who grew these tomatoes. Look at how beautiful these plants are. I just took this picture last week. You can grow tomatoes here. It's very difficult, though. Many people, I've talked to people and they say, I don't even like growing tomatoes here because they just always get problems. But you can grow them if you keep on top of them, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in a few minutes. This is a tomato plant where I work. I do maintenance on apartments. I'm the guy that swings the hammer and the paintbrush. And this tomato plant was growing just in front of somebody's porch. Now this thing don't even have southern exposure. It doesn't get any afternoon sun. It only gets morning sun. Now if you know about tomatoes, you know that they're sun lovers. To ripen those tomatoes, they have to get at least 6 to 8 hours of sun a day. But this tomato plant didn't seem to care too much about that rule because it grew like a monster. Now look at these little tiny pots. These pots are only about this big. I don't know whether